Hey guys, welcome to another video from Historic Militaria. Today we're going to be looking at an interesting cartridge. This is one of the few rimfire cartridges to ever see military service, and that is the 10.4 by 38 rimmed Swiss, or in American parlance, better known as the 41 Swiss. And these are, as I said, a rimfire cartridge, so they are not really actually reloadable. And they were used in the Swiss Vetterli rifles from about 1869 to about 1889 in Swiss military service. You'll also find a lot of these here in America, which are made by Remington and Winchester, and they will have appropriate Remington and Winchester head stamps. You'll see U for UMC. You'll see a whole bunch of American commercial head stamps on these as well. However, original Swiss military ammunition between 1869 and 1889 is going to have a Swiss head stamp. And those are going to be your typical Swiss cross. And it's going to look like a centerfire, but it's not. It is a typical rimfire, even though it's got that Swiss cross there right where a normal primer would be. These were 300, I believe they're 310 grain paper patched lead bullets. Pretty standard for the time. They didn't have a great deal of power. I mean, as far as maybe a deer cartridge at short range, they were good for that, and they were used quite extensively in America when they were surplused out by the Swiss. When the Swiss went to the Schmidt-Rubin in about 1889, 1890, they had a lot of these rifles lying around, so they sent them to the American commercial market, along with a lot of ammunition. And it was sought after by American hunters who were on a budget. They were reliable military rifles that held 12 rounds in a tubular magazine. And the ammunition was pretty cheap. The rifles were pretty cheap. And they even saw service in American mine workers strikes in Virginia or West Virginia in as late as the 1920s. And I believe it wasn't until about right before World War II that ammunition actually stopped being made by the major American manufacturers. So these had a pretty long service life in American commercial use and civilian shooting, whereas their military service was only about 20 years. They're not around that you see that often, especially not the original Swiss loadings. So I wanted to take a look at these and just kind of give you an example of what you might be looking for if you do collect these. These are some nicer examples than I've usually seen. They still have the paper patches on them. And as you can see, they were a copper casing. Generally, you're going to see them in a copper casing. I'm not going to say you're not going to find them in brass, but most of the American manufacturers I've seen, as well as the Swiss, have been copper. They were for their time, they were a great rifle. They held 12 rounds, as I said, and it was a bolt-action repeater, which had a large magazine capacity for the time. So, pretty interesting gun. It went through a lot of iterations over its 20 years, and the Italians actually adopted the rifle as well, but they adopted a centerfire cartridge, so a little bit different than the Swiss. But regardless, it's a cartridge that did have a long life, and then on the American collector market. And as you can see, there's just far too many cartridges floating around here, so I wanted to take a look at these before they go disappearing into a case and never seen again. As always, thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.